is get Teddy back on a marksman. A lot of other teams, KT Rolster, Kingzone, they have finally returned to marksman picks for their traditional marksman players, whereas Teddy has largely been playing the mages and bruisers in the bot lane. They need a fountain laser because if Jin Air don't win the early game, they always relied on Teddy. We'll focus on the bans, and so far the bans are some of the highest meta champions right now.
Yeah, Swain seeing a lot of play across the board, even in other regions, just coming up in a big way as one of the strongest picks that we do have in the current meta. Lulu, also a very common first pick on the blue side, going to be taken away here from SKT.
If I'm SKT, I consider banning Kai'Sa or Braum, because if I'm Jin Air, it's time to put Teddy in the mid lane on Kai'Sa and have Cal run around on Braum. And late game mechanics from the Kai'Sa, if it's Teddy, no queries whatsoever. So that's what I would like to see from the side of Jin Air. They're not going to go that way, then just as I mentioned, a marksman for Teddy would be a move forward. Maybe even SKT will be doing some new meta stuff. We'll wait and see. Final ban here could be visit to a lot of different directions. Right now, most of the high meta stuff is banned. And look at this. They're saying they want to play Dr. Mundo on the side of Jin Air because Tal picked up a victory against Mundo. That means Talia is available. And from what we understand, still is not able to take Smite in the LCK.
Yeah, at least over in our region, but it's still a very strong pick. Not as strong as it could be, but it's still pretty good. You guys see that down there at the bottom. It is confirmed. And so that means we might be seeing either Faker or Bang pick that up, or maybe even Effort in the support role. You never know with that kind of flex.
It looked like a good friend Gorilla was playing first time Talia when he was playing support, and it mattered not. They won with it anyway, so Talia is definitely a high power pick. Seeing the Sejuani locked in for Jin Air probably counts out most funnels. There were some interesting things happening in NA overnight that I was able to look into, where there's a chance it's still going to be some shenanigans, but Sejuani priority is higher than higher. It's a fallback pick for Blank because, of course, he usually goes for the level 6 junglers rather than going for any sort of early ganking. So Sejuani priority much, much higher than before. Will the Lovers bot lane come out for SKT?
Well, generally when they start the hover stuff, they lock it in, SKT. And you do see that the Xayah comes in, and there's the Rakan. Also just a very strong support on his own nowadays, but together with Xayah, going to be doing it up in the bottom side.
Does seem to indicate that Faker will be jumping on the Talia. A lot of options for Grace into it. Some people even like the Vladimir, and after the pushing was removed from Talia's kit largely, Vladimir gets even more time to be able to just run at the Talia. Another good option is this Irelia. Would be a flex pick for Jin Air. They've played it in the bot lane role. Obviously a flex pick in multiple roles, but given this team has actually played it, it's a little bit more worth discussing than just the theory of it being a flex. The win rate for Irelia in this league has been abysmal. You can see it on your screen, 21% in a relatively high sample size of 19 games. They do see a marksman and a Talia, and both of these Irelia can attempt to attack, but actually pulling off the Irelia 1-3-1 and even assassination in teamfights has been a bridge too far for our Irelia players.
Yeah, still struggling to find much success at all on that pick. And going into the second phase here, Trundle going to be taken away, as well as the Morgana on the side of SKT. One of the biggest counters to that Lovers bottom duo, but also mainly just Rakan. You can essentially take away his engage power with that Black Shield, if timed correctly.
Waiting now. Final ban from SKT. Most of Blank's representative champion pool has been banned away. Looking at what he's playing in solo queue, a lot of Talia, but from what we understand, that's disabled. The Camille banned away by them. Starting to get to the Xin Zhao territory and just things that haven't performed. The Jax, of course, is going to be an ironic pick for most fans, but is something he's been practicing pretty extensively. So wait and see what the decision is. Jin Air going to lock in Braum, possibly for just the support role. Yeah, right now they are hovering. They could still enact some crazy shenanigans, but it's seeming unlikely.
Yeah, they might begin to run into a problem where they're going to need to hard engage big time, unless they could just get kited out here. Mundo, though, going to help out with that.
They banned Nasus earlier, so it did set up for a Mundo pick. The Nasus farm lane worked out very well for Tal. Might be taking a different role. He's flashing the Aatrox, which would be the more aggressive pick into Mundo. It's a lot about timings.
Well, he's flashing the Echo, hovering the Aatrox, thinking about one or the other, and will pick up the Aatrox.
All about item timings here between the Mundo and the Aatrox. Aatrox has some good all-in options at level 6 as well, just because Mundo doesn't really have a very powerful ultimate first level. Gets much stronger as you rank it up. Get items, and from there, we're going to look at a Shen hover as well. I'm getting confused now. Maybe we've got bad intel about whether the Taliyah can take Smite or not.
You know, I don't really know.
There's a lot of things you can do here. We did see in Challengers.
Shen or Aatrox.
All right. It's actually going to be
jungle.
Potentially the... Yes, because you'd see Smite on Bang. There was a game in Challengers where it was Rakan mid lane and Xayah with Smite, and it effectively ended up being the same sort of strategy. So I think we're actually seeing new meta from SKT where they're funneling around Bang on the Xayah, is my take on this kind of draft that we're seeing here. Gonna wait and see how it all looks. And yeah, it looks like it's gonna probably be Taliyah in the bot lane with the Shen, and then the Rakan roaming around with the Xayah in the mid lane. This was played in Challengers, so very new meta on the side of SKT. On the side of Jin Air, they're just looking at SKT and being like, really? They're playing that weird Challenger strategy, but they're funneling on the side of SKT. It's gonna be Blank playing Rakan and mid lane Xayah coming through from Bang.
Well, that's a very weird way to try to make a difference, right? A change in your team, but I do like it. I like the idea with what they're going for, right? Blank, he's been struggling a little bit. It's no question. Throw him on literally just a support champion and do it in a different manner. You know, just throw people all over the Rift and try to make your carries actually carry, right? Bang and Faker have been listed multiple times as the guys that have to draw this team up by the bootstraps, and maybe this is the way to do it.
And we've had a Taliyah bot lane already in the LCK from Viper. It was in a victory also from Griffin, so this is not new. The Challengers strategy, this is actually the Korean variant on the funnel, is going to happen. We'll talk about it more in match, but SKT are definitely using their analysts, using their vast resources to pull off something new. And for Jin Air, another struggling team, there's a real chance they'll come away confused, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers are right now.
Yeah, you look at this and you're like, what the hell is going on? You can't see the summoners. You tell your friend to get in the stream and you're like, I don't even know what's going on if you just see the 5 champions. But just wait, it'll all make sense in just a moment, guys. Stick with us, as I've gotten the word that game number 1 is ready to go. The countdown has started. Let's jump into game number 1.
미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Well, the one thing that is nice is the fans will never give up on your team. Even if you're 0-5 in the LCK, they will still come down and be loyal and watch every game.
There was one global fan chanting TSM.
I heard it.
After the 2. I heard it too. I don't know if the crowd heard it, but that was great. I think for this one, just to explain it, it might be best if we do this kind of a question-answer, Valdez, because let's begin with a very obvious question of what is a funnel comp? And what is your, as a play-by-play caster, obviously you don't watch as much of other regions to really get technical about it. What's your understanding of what a funnel comp is, as we're seeing a lot of interesting stuff going on the side of SKT?
Yeah, and the Observer placing the champions in a very strange order.
He's
trying
confused.
to just make sense of it all, but I don't think he's really landed on the right page here.
So the big takeaway, and what I'm trying to get to is, it's going to be a funnel. It's going to be about getting as much resources as possible onto the Xayah. And for some people, that might be weird, because they're like, wait, I'm used to it being Kai'Sa. But if you watched EULCS last night, G2 were able to pull off the funnel on mid lane Lucian, which is certainly not the same school of hyper carry as a Kai'Sa. So what's going on in this game? The funnel is about cheating the item curve and getting levels and items onto a carry. I think the Xayah fits that just fine, and you can open up new and more greedy item builds because you're being very uninteractive about how the game is played. Xayah Rakan as a mid lane and roaming support / jungle duo is a very interesting one, but it was played in Challengers. It's the same theory of Bang with Smite, roaming around, taking down camps, not interacting with the enemy team, and just really Blank being around to provide assistance for him, to be able to CC in the mid lane, to be able to actually assist from a long range because they get the Zyrakan interaction with the E, the battle dance. And then for the enemy team, it's about how do you stop a funnel. And the checklist we've laid out in the LCK is the ability to take down 3 turrets by 15 minutes, preferably the 3 outer turrets, and actually strongly push and punish as they roam around. And Jin Air has traditionally struggled at that metric.
Yeah, and just as you're mentioning that, I mean, you take a look at their composition. Early on in the bottom lane, they're going to be pushed in by Shantalia with, you know, the very weak early on Vladimir and the Tom Kents, who's melee up against this Thalia. You also have the top lane, which shouldn't really be going down unless they have a big push. Irelia in the mid lane has famously been pushed in as well. They don't really have the ability to push many of these lanes, Papa.
And now you're saying, okay, Faker's on Thalia in the bot lane. What's going on? Let's again extend the point. Now we know how to beat a funnel. How do you make the funnel better? What does the best funnel comp look like? The first thing we learned is you need priority in other lanes. They need to be pushing and actually drawing resource from the enemy team to answer a pushing lane. Then suddenly you understand that Thalia in the carry role with any support is going to shove, especially in a duo lane. There aren't many champions who can outshove even new Thalia. If it was old Thalia, it'd be a landslide, but that was a very different thing.
Oh, yeah.
With more flat movement speed, you're less likely to be hit by a skill shot when you're not rock surfing, and just as a champion, you have more shove than most champions do early. So that's why Thalia's evolving into more of a bot lane in the carry role, because you can push with it, you get the priority, and you're like, okay, another good thing with the funnel comp. They're pushing in bot, they're pushing in mid. Aatrox against Mundo is a winning matchup for Aatrox early, unless he falls behind in items. And around the mid game, it's very item dependent where Aatrox will have control. So they have shove in top, shove in bot. In the mid lane, they're funneling, and the enemy team was also going to be very surprised because even our observers took a long time to understand what's going on here in terms of lane assignment. So Zyrakan played in challengers. The comp overall is a good example of what the funnel should do because of the push that now we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, this duo composition in the bottom lane is really good at pushing, but it's also fantastic at assassinating people. If you land a Shen taunt, that guy is nearly going to go down, or he might even have to go back early. They blow his exhaust, and now he is just going to be low health underneath this turret for quite a while. Definitely losing this lane in the bot lane, too.
And this is the duo that Viper and Lehens used for Griffin. It was Shen and Thalia.
Yep.
Because if either Shen or Thalia is walking in the unwarded brush, and then either Seismic Shove or the first taunt hits, you're taking a ridiculous amount of damage early. If the full threaded volley hits you, including any of the other damage on the other two, we're talking 500-700 damage just in one rotation. So they're getting shoved, they've got a big CS lead, the funnel is happening around Bang. Bang is still the one who's expected to pick up the greatest amount of farm. Ideally, we'd have Faker and Xayah change roles in terms of the scoreboard, so you guys would be able to see that.
Yeah.
Right now, we have the Xayah in the bot lane. Next to the Rakan, again, it's fine. But the big takeaway is funnel in the mid. Bot lane is a priority one. SKT, they've actually enacted a creative, and it looks like pretty successful for at least the early game funnel comp. And it's the Korean style, not what we saw in EU LCS and other ones around the world.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very effective, which would certainly give SKT the advantage here in this kind of draft that we have seen come from. And just speaking about that too, we saw the win rate of the Irelia before when it was picked in the champ select there. And just to quote that once again, currently 4-15, a 21% win ratio. I feel like against all of the funneling strategies that we've been seeing, you know, Irelia just really does not push super fast. You know, she doesn't really have huge presence in the mid lane. She was picked a lot just for a safe, you know, basic line pick, has flex, right? Can be thrown into other lanes like top and bot, but against all these funneling strats, she's just really struggling to put much pressure on in the mid lane.
And the other kind of advantage of going for this level of kind of innovation with the funnel is it came on so late that you're going to surprise the enemy. Like, you can't do this twice. The first time, the enemy's like, wait, we can't actually react to it. Previously, when we've seen a Lulu first pick, the enemy team on red side, if Master Yi Taric or Kaiser Braum are not banned, are sitting there being like, well, we have to draft something that could beat the funnel if they choose to do it. We're not 100% sure, and you're kind of panicked, and you might draft yourself into a corner. Now 4 champions were locked in before they're like, crap, they're funneling. They may not even know until the swaps ended, and that is also the value of being on the edge of innovation like SKT have been in this game.
Yeah. Everything we've said early on is coming to fruition already, right? We already see 89 CS onto the Xayah. We see the pushing in the bottom lane, the domination there, into just rolling it into an early Infernal Drake as well to make it even stronger for your team. And yeah, fantastic spot already for SKT.
And then for the side of Jin Air, they're in trouble, and here's Faker.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about how that bottom lane is good in the 2v2. It's good at pushing, but it's also double semi-global if you're talking about the Taliyah specifically, and they have a lot of map presence as well.
Huge start for the side of SKT. Gold-wise, Jin Air going to be pretty happy with where the game is at. You do notice they're about 500 gold ahead, which is pretty standard when the funnel comp is happening, because at the end of the day, both Blank and Effort are going to be a bit starved for gold in this game. Not a big deal. Shen with more tankiness is more than just a taunt and ult, but without that is just the taunt ult. And honestly, the dodge field can come up pretty big against an Aurelia as well. Blanks on Rakan, and again, doesn't really need items apart from maybe an Ardent Sensor or a Zeke's Convergence to make things work. So if you can get a gold lead, that's wonderful, but they've got an Infernal, which is like a gold lead, and they also have two champions that don't need items, and that's why the funnel works, because the support role necessitated high-power champions that don't need gold and items. So why not put two of them, maybe even three of them on the Rift and see what sticks?
Yeah. I think maybe the best part of this for SKT fans is that it's not Faker on Taric anymore. They put him on Taliyah in the bottom lane, and they let a guy who's underperforming, like Blank, go onto the support and be the guy who actually funnels. I think that's definitely going to be a breath of fresh air for a lot of people who were willing to tear down the walls of SKT once they saw Faker's Taric the other day.
Jankos had a fantastic interview that's on Reddit about the funnel. I was watching it live very early in the morning, and it was amusing. He seemed a little bit reticent to want to play Braum. He wasn't a huge fan of being non-interactive as the First Blood King in previous seasons. Had a fun interaction with him on Twitter about the fact that in 5 years' time, when people forget about the funnel comp, they're going to be like, ah, yes, Jankos, aggressive First Blood King, most played in EULCS Summer. Braum. His career DPM numbers in the toilet. But if you keep winning, it's worth it, Valdez.
That's what it's all about, right? I know Ian and a lot of other carry guys, they want to be the carries, right? That's what they signed up for. But if you're winning and you're going to the championship and you're getting the money, the fame, the glory, well, maybe it is worth it in the end.
Now, of course, can't spend it till you've earned it, and people will be quizzical about what the free farm Xayah looks like, but the Lucian popped off huge from Perks, and Xayah is pretty similar with a couple of items. Warrior Enchant, like we saw from Perks, going to be going the first item here, Devourer, or Blood Razor as I should call it, but in my head it's Devourer. Doesn't fit every AD carry, so it makes sense to go Warrior, I think, for high amounts of AD onto someone like the Xayah. The second item could be a lot of different things. I wait and see what the choice is there. Would understand by the Ruin King, would understand Essence Reaver. There's a lot of different choices you can make. Probably staying away from crit itemization just because even with the funnel, you want to be able to fight on 2 items, not 3 or 4. Yeah. And SKT have monopolized the neutrals. They already picked up the Infernal. They're actually onto the Rift Herald. And Kakao this whole game, we haven't mentioned his name because he's done nothing.
Yeah, I mean, what exactly has he been doing? He looked for a gank in the bottom side in which Faker and Effort down there were just sitting back, not doing much. And that's about it. That's the only place he's really looked for a kill. And speaking of which, we might have that engaged onto the Tahm Kench here. Isn't going to be enough damage, though. He's got a stopwatch. And they decided to go for him because they knew that, you know, the easy Devourer would go onto the Aurelia if they focused her. So instead, they just get a little bit of push and damage done to the Tahm Kench.
Proactive moves are still coming from the side of SKT, and we're seeing a small, slender CS lead for Faker over Teddy. That is the matchup, even though the graph doesn't show it. They got the Rift Herald, and even just the charge is going to basically kill this turret, so they'll get mid lane turret. Remember, the checklist is, oh, hold the point.
Ooh, look at that, Faker, he wants to be the carry, and he will do it. The flash seismic shove into the First Blood onto Effort.
We get to bring back an oldie but a goodie, Faker Playmaker. That's going to get them 2 turrets in the mid lane, as Tahm Kench and the rest of Jin Air are too slow to react. That's a big lead, and I was about to get to it. The checklist is get 3 turrets down against the funnel. This is the opposite. They're 2 turrets down, and they've got nothing. I think we need a performance review from Jin Air. Feels like Kakao especially is the guy who, you know, hasn't really got any productivity going. The productivity test is not looking good for his jungle Sejuani. the safe farm to level 5, level 6, that part is acceptable. The no ults in 12 minutes, that's a problem.
Yeah, you would say unacceptable. This certainly, though, is acceptable. For SKT fans, a lot of you guys are saying, finally, Faker! They throw him on something that can make plays. Let me tell you, that is not easy to do on Taliyah. You need to be very mechanically skilled to make that happen, you know.
Moment you're flashing for a difficult skill shot to hit, it is very indicative that it was a purely Faker move. I already mentioned Gorilla on Taliyah, where he didn't seem to fully appreciate all the nuances of the mechanic that is Seismic Shove.
Yeah.
Rumble players know this, but people who don't play those two champions, of course, a little bit different when it comes to the aiming. And in the meantime, you've got someone like Teddy, who's not an AD carry, still on a late-game spiking champion in Vladimir. You've got a team in Jin Air who's 0-5, facing a comp that would have caught basically everyone by surprise in terms of the roles, where the champions were going. We can't be too surprised that Jin Air right now is just kind of saying, I don't really know what's going on. They know now, but by the time they were kind of set up and understood the nuance, maybe it was too late.
I think you put it best right there. To sum it up in one word, they look very lost, right? They're just on the rift. It's like they're kind of playing solo queue. They're just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do, and SKT's just taking advantage of me, and I do not like it.
And I think taking advantage is actually a very apt thing to say, because usually when an enemy team is doing some really off-meta stuff, which clearly we're seeing here, they'll hold the point. TP
Wall's
and
going to come in. That actually gets Teddy behind it, and a nice seismic shove onto Nova here. And Tall even coming from behind. Going to be able to pick up one kill. Cacao super low. They can't get him, though. Stopwatch comes in here for effort. He's going to live. Grace trying to go in, but he will go down on the last side. Zoan still on the run. Looks like they won't commit to him, though.
Man, it was so painful to see the wall keeping the Vladimir, the AoE Hemomancer, away, and Aatrox coming just to make him have no relevance in the fight. Very well coordinated by SKT. They're able to trade up. They lose their Shen, but it is support Shen. Doesn't matter. They hit the second Drake of the game. Gonna watch the replay here. Weaver's wall comes down, and crucially, Teddy is the one separated. Now, their blast plant is there. He can choose to blast over. He considers it. Doesn't auto, so just ends up wasting his Tides of Blood because he sees the teleport coming in. He's not sure. The communication isn't clear. More kills off the back end. Cal will be able to get away, but it doesn't matter. Still going to be a big team fight win for SKT as Grace tries to spare the blushes of his team, but the 1-for-1 is certainly not ideal. And just to finish the point, the reason why I say take advantage of is the right kind of descriptor for this game is against a lot of comps, you see weird stuff on the enemy team. I think back to GSG in 2012. I know it's a dated reference, but they would play Rumble Fiddlesticks, and that's weird. I don't know what's going on there. And then now we're seeing funnel comps. And usually when you see weird stuff and you have a pretty standard comp, you say, all right, let's just farm up, not sure what they're doing. We'll do our thing. We know how to play our comp. If you do that against funnel, you just lose. Because the funnel comp at 20 minutes with all the gold on someone like Azaya, usually a Kai'Sa, even Marcy just wins the game at 20 to 25 minutes. This is the one style of comp. Funnel comps, if you don't know what to do against them, you lose. Because if they do their own thing, they're just playing their own game. They're playing solitaire over here, but they're winning the solitaire game while you're watching. And that's kind of the struggle. That's why Jin Air looks super exposed, because they've just tried to play risk-free League of Legends, but SKT are winning the game while Jin Air are trying to work out what's going on.
Yeah, it's very important to note all that, and even in the team fights too. You know, they're a bit behind now, but the communication out the window. The Sejuani and the Tomcats, they get caught. Not able to get any effective DPS down there. No engage happens. And again, it just looks like SKT is one step ahead of them. The Abyssal Voyage is going to save them this turret up in the top side, but at least this looks very good for SKT. This might be the first time where they can actually win a series and begin to turn things around, Papa.
It's funny, but the best analogy I've come up with during this game for the funnel comp is a Hearthstone one. It's Miracle Rogue. They're playing their own deck. They're playing with their own resources and winning the game. And if you don't get in there and interact with them, they just win. And that's how the funnel comp works, is if they're able to do their own thing, keep to their own plan, and your checklist doesn't actually shut them down, the funnel comp wins. SKT is winning this game as Jin Air kind of watch on in horror, not being able to interact with the game.
Yeah, well, they had the defense up in the top side before, but now everybody is gone. So SKT, they just group up once again, take another free turret, and extend their gold lead to over 4,000. Faker looks like he's really confident. That's something that I really love to see here from him. You know, the flash is forward into seismic shove means that, you know, he's not scared to make plays like that. He knows that his team will follow him up. The communication seems to be there, and it seems to be better, honestly, with effort in the lineup, too, which is one thing we did talk about earlier on. So perhaps this is the lineup that we'll get from SKT if we continue to see some success from it after today.
I can't give effort too much credit because this game is kind of played out pretty non-interactively, and that means it's very hard to separate what his impact has been. Wolf has made some very noticeable mistakes, and I've been, you know, a big proponent of saying he needs to work on his own game, and maybe he's doing that in solo queue and working with the team in scrims, but you got to say effort has fulfilled his role. The team has reinvented themselves with a new strategy that's only been seen once in Challenger's career, and it wasn't imported from the EU LCS, like the Heimerdinger and the Kai'Sa mid lane that we've seen pretty commonly. So credit to the SKT coaching staff. There hasn't been much of that in the summer season, but I think they've come up with something really good here. And for Jin Air, the game isn't over, but definitely does feel like Valdez.
It's feeling that way. Already trying to get some deep vision on the red side, just even more than a minute before this Baron does start up. They've got a pretty nice Baron team. I mean, they only, well, they do have the Shen and the Rakan, but Aatrox, Talia, and Xayah, if they're all heading onto that Baron, especially with Blade of the Rune King, it should be quite fast. You also have that Talia wall to zone people out, and a nice amount of CC on your engagers and your supporters. So I do like the composition. I think they can just roll into that pretty quickly.
Got to be a bit careful around the Vladimir, as while we haven't seen Teddy pull off a big ultimate, threat is always there as we're creeping towards level 11. Looking for some more playmaking, and this is a big play.
I mentioned it before, the essentially double global from the bottom lane, Faker effort. And, well, they get the flash. There's a lot committed to there by Faker and effort. You know, those are a couple of cooldowns that are quite long for those two champions.
Can't help but get excited when you see Shen riding on a Talia, but sadly, it was all a ruse, just a prank. They pull away, they get the flash from Mundo, it's something. Push back up, SKT have a lot of map control. Baron spawns in a minute, and like you already mentioned, 15 seconds in fact. The threat is there, the on-hit build was confirmed, like you mentioned. Play the Ruin King, like we guessed, because crit itemization, bit of a joke on this patch. We pull away, and all right, Jin Air, can you have a heroic defense around the Baron? Because that's really all that remains for SKT when it comes to the early game checklist.
Got a nice ward right there below the Raptors by Jin Air, but that's about it. And so they are just going to go straight onto this. Shen actually walking over that ward. Nobody's even going close. They're all on the opposite side. Oh, they don't even realize that this is a possibility, and that is a big mistake. SKT gonna sneak it underneath their noses. A 20-minute Baron comes in for SKT.
VOD review for this game will be useful for Jin Air, but that was a very, very straightforward move. You have to know that the final strategy will always go to Baron around 20 minutes. Jin Air haven't had any map control there. That needs to be their big goal. They are in position for Infernal, but I think SKT's in position to fight.
Yeah, they are. They do not have those two ultimates that were used in the bottom lane previously, Talia and Shen, but they're still willing to come on in here. You got Vlad. Look at Teddy from the top side. He's also trying his best, trying to carry his team from there. And
that's why SKT is being a bit tentative. They're like, where's the Vladimir? He seems to be flanking us. They have to peer into both sides. They notice he is not in the brush. The Faker just checked, so they know he's coming from top side. That makes him a bit more predictable. All right, Jin Air, you kind of watched in horror as SKT have found this big advantage.
They see him, and they immediately throw that on the wall and go into the Infernal Drake. That's going to be the second Infernal alongside a Cloud Drake and Baron for SKT. They're steamrolling Jin Air right now.
Beautiful play from SKT. The Weaver's Wall, again, cuts off any realistic chance of an engage. They back away. The purchases continue. Might just be Rageblade next item coming through from the Xayah. Basically everyone who doesn't go or goes into Blade of the Ruin King just goes for the Rageblade to get even more value out of the big on-hit coming there, and the lifesteal also from the item. Wait and see, we'll track it, but there the Xayah continues. Faker has some nice items too, and Teddy slowly creeping himself to the death cap as a second item. He's not even been able to upgrade his boots. He's trying to find the big 2-item power spike, but the game may be over before that truly comes in.
Yeah, I mean, even the stopwatch was picked up last by Bang. He had an extra 600 gold. He's like, I can't complete another big item. I'm not just going to get one dagger, so let's just go ahead and grab a stopwatch. Make him even harder to kill alongside the QSS, the Feather Storm, and the rest of his team right in your face. You mentioned other timings for items here. The Aatrox's hit is as well. The Rage Blade Titanic Hydra has come in, and Faker has also showed up to play, saying, Teddy, you are no longer a part of this fight.
Faker is bot laning. Reminds me of Hoonies. He's all over the map, this Faker guy. Maybe 5 Fakers will work out pretty well. I'm sure SKT fans would agree. They're pushing up. Bang and Blank are also pulling off this siege. Even got the double B thing going on. That's some nice synergy for the Lovers duo.
Well, that's just about how we can describe this one for Kakao. And the rest of the Jin Air team. They're down and out. They look lost. They look defeated here. As SKT, they're pushing in now with the Baron, going to be able to take 2 inhibitors. And afterwards can just roll up into the top lane. That is also pushing if they want to. They could go back and spend their gold. SKT could pretty much do anything at this point and win Papa.
Yeah, I think Jin Air really want to go to the coach and get the post-game talk on already. Definitely after a moment like that, you just wish you could, you know, seamlessly enter the ground and disappear. It's kind of the profile you're looking for after that moment. But honestly, they never really showed up for this game. They didn't seem to know what was going on. Again, not many people did until the champion select really ended. They kind of need the loading screen to be like, all right, Smite over here, that's interesting. Weaver's wall down.
Teddy trying to fight Faker, who's up 2 levels. Thankfully, he does have the Tom Kens, but he nearly dies to effort. We also got to fight up at the top side. Once again, they're just steamrolling them as they move underneath the turret, take out a couple of members, and that should just be the game as SKT looking to close it out.
Hold on to Faker. He'll live through this, trying to end the game like you mentioned.
Oh, Irelia has her ult. First time we've seen it. Trying to get on top of Faker, and she does. But that's just about it. Gonna be the 1-for-1 trade, and with super minions coming in, they are now looking to take down this last Nexus turret and move into their first win. It's gonna be a really quick one here for SKT. Even playing with their food, feeling pretty confident. Will be the first win, 1-0 for SKT in 24 minutes.
SKT find their first victory with Faker and Bang in the roster this year. With their starting roster, the roster that I think a lot of people were looking for, they win a game, they smile, they were able to outdraft and out-execute Jin Air, who kind of watched on in horror, understanding that this game had gotten way away from them. You can't pull off this strategy as a surprise again. But just a victory, just some confidence, just a game 1 win is exactly what SKT and their players, I'm sure, their fans as well, were looking for. And that means the game 2 draft will be interesting because it seems like SKT, they're going the mad scientist route. They're going to try and play on the edge of the meta where you usually do really well or get burned, try to find new stuff, and this funnel seemed to work very well.
And the best thing for SKT fans is to take a look at Faker and see a gigantic smile on his face, teeth and all, right? It looks like he just stomped a solo queue game, and that's what it kind of felt like as well, Papa.
I'm sure SKT fans have wanted to have a highlight reel of Faker after every game, and for the longest time, every game you could, but you couldn't this season. The past, yes. This season, no. Finally, some big Faker moments. We got the huge chunks onto multiple members. Finally, a big smile from Bang, who's had nothing to smile about. Everything went well for the side of SK Telecom T1. On the side of Jin Air, seems like we're going to see a substitution as Backpack Umti is on the screen.
Well, this is about as close as you can get to disappearing in the ground, Papa. You get subbed out real quick on camera. So that's going to do it for game 1, guys. We'll be back.